There are two Daryl Mitchells in professional cricket. For the longest time, I wonder why Worcestershire's Daryl Mitchell was suddenly at a very late age playing domestic cricket in New Zealand and hitting so many sixes.
This is the last book. It's almost as good as a Minecraft video. Imagine that.
I mean, even with cricket's obsession with the word Mitchell, I mean, how many Daryl Mitchells do you actually expect there to be? Eventually I worked out that New Zealand Mitchell was a middle order hitter who bowled a little bit of seam and he looked like a good cricketer. But maybe, unlike a lot of the other Kiwi prospects, no one was really talking him up. His only major experience outside of the national team was playing for Middlesex in the Blast this year, which is now very much a second-tier tournament. And for New Zealand, he'd been fine, but maybe nothing more. And his medium pace probably doesn't even translate to international level. So before this tournament, I didn't even truly factor him into their team. And I was at least thinking about him. I would suggest that most people were not at all. I mean, they had so many other options at the top and the middle, I couldn't see how he would play. But New Zealand opened with him. And Ken Williamson talked about Mitchell's character when they made that decision. Sure, that's nice, great. But New Zealand came to a World Cup with a squad full of opening talent. And they made the one guy who had never opened in professional cricket bat first. It does kind of prove the point that many of us have, that almost anyone can open in T20 cricket. The innings itself was obviously bizarre. The big hitting Mitchell got completely stuck, a little bit like Moeen Ali had before. And at times he looked like a liability as he was 46 off 40 with more mishits and boundaries. But with a shallower batting lineup than some of the other teams, part of the Kiwi plan is obviously always to have someone bat long through the innings. So he did that. And then when Neesham changed the direction of the planet, Mitchell entered the game with 26 from his last 6 balls. And so for the 6th time in his professional life, he opened the batting. He made 72. And because of that, New Zealand are in the World Cup final. And I wouldn't say that New Zealand were favourites for this. England were kind of favourites for the tournament. But also, this is not a particularly good matchup for New Zealand. I know we tend to believe that knockout games are about who wants it more. But in knockout matches, the better team can just come up against a side that they can't work out. That wasn't really the case here. It was New Zealand who were actually put off a bit by the matchups. Here, let R. Ashwin tell you the story. Even if you think Williamson was wrong to bowl a part-time bowling keeper with a better matchup, it's important to remember how much they can influence a game. New Zealand bowls Santner and Sodhi in the middle, and England has a lot of left-handers. So today, they couldn't do that. They essentially had to change who they were as a team for this match. And that's why Ashwin was upset. And so is this guy who thinks I create perceptions that ruin cricket or something. The thing is, I actually agree with Ashwin. The first thing you need to know about Santner is that he averages less against left-handers than he does against right-handers. And not even a little bit, but a lot. He is more expensive against them, almost by a run and over. But Santner would not be at this level if he couldn't bowl 2 left-handers. And how do I know this? Well, contrary to Bunny 2K4's tweets, I have actually written it before, because New Zealand have done this exact same thing. Failed to bowl Santner because of 2 left-handers in a World Cup. I was there, man. Here's a piece I wrote at the 2019 World Cup about how Williamson was wrong to not bowl Santner to Aussie southpaws. A matchup doesn't just mean you don't bowl a left-arm orthodox to a left-hander. It means that you have to delve deeper into what both the batters do, what the bowler is better at, probably where the boundary is, maybe even the wind direction, and then make an informed decision. I don't know if New Zealand made the right one or not, but I know that Phillips' 1 over was expensive, and it meant that Jimmy Neesham had to bowl 2 overs, including 1 at the death. And being that no one wants to use their 6th bowler at the death, and Phillips' good record against left-handers is from only 92 balls, because how much can you bowl to them if you were a wicketkeeper until very recently? It's probably not an ideal situation to go with this matchup. And I think this affected the entire Kiwi bowling plan. Because they're not a deep batting team, Santner is handy at 7, Milne the same at 8, and Southee has 6s at 9. It's long, but it's not particularly strong and long. So they have been winning in this World Cup by keeping teams to incredibly low scores. And they were going up against a very high scoring team. So New Zealand needed to be incredibly frugal like they had been in this entire World Cup. Having very dependable frontline bowlers and going deep into your 6th and 7th bowling options in a knockout semi-final is not ideal. Neesham had bowled 8 overs coming into this match, Phillips hadn't bowled any at this stage, and their 3 overs went for a combined 29 runs. Then you only need one frontline bowler to have a bad day, and the score gets high. Trent Boult was the man, and he delivered 5 wides on the way to 40 runs from his 10. I mean, the score looked high considering the pitch and the ground, but not unscalable. Of course, it looked a shit ton higher when they lost 2 of their all-time greatest run scorers in the power play. And that was strange as well. Jofra Archer was supposed to be taking the new ball for England. Sam Curran was a big chance to be using it as well. The one person that was probably very unlikely to ever do it was Chris Woakes. He hadn't played T20 cricket in 2019 or 2020. But England have been hit hard by injuries, and so they went down their depth chart looking for who their next best new ball bowler was. And Woakes had dominated ODI cricket at the top, and that's exactly what he did in this tournament. He's delivered 90 power play balls, taken 6 wickets and gone at 5.2 runs and over. England's third choice has been first class. And today he took 2 early wickets, Martin Guptill and Kane Williamson. At this point, England had just got a long way in front. And Mitchell and Conway really let the chase get bloated as well. And the one player that they were probably trying to attack was Liam Livingstone as England's 5th bowler. And talking about matchups, he's like a one-man matchup machine. The ability to bowl off spin and leg spin depending on his mood, and he's also quite decent at both skills, which isn't always the case when people bowl both. And he's also smarter than just bowling off spin to lefties and leg spin to righties. He got Conway with an out of the front of the hand leg spinning delivery, and he bowled some leg spinners to him as well. He ended up with 2 for 24. That is a fantastic result from your 5th bowler, especially as he didn't bowl his first over until the 10th. He didn't get any soft overs. And when he finished his spell, depending on your win predictor of choice, England was somewhere around 80% chance of winning. It means they would have won 4 out of 5. Sorry if you did the maths in your head already and I'm now just re-explaining it to you. At this point, of course, there were a lot of towels out on the field, but Livingstone had just been bowling spin, all kinds of it, and he was doing okay. And that's when Chris Jordan came on to bowl. It is worth noting that if England had a full strength team, they would have been completely different in this tournament, a completely different unit. Losing Jofra Archer, Sam Curran, Jamal Mills, Jason Roy and Ben Stokes is huge. That's 5 IPL players. But while Mills might be the least known or respected of all these players, his absence might have been the most important in this particular game. Now, if the Jew did come in, maybe there's nothing he could have done either with his back-of-the-hand slow balls. But this is where Chris Jordan is on the list of top death bowlers in the last 5 years. And here's Jamal Mills. Jordan has played more international cricket and IPL in that time, but they managed to cover pretty much all the other injuries really well. Milan stepped up, and he's probably not in this side if Stokes is fit. Woakes was covering for Jofra and Curran really and did a great job. And having Bairstow as your backup opener when Roy is injured, even if he fails, is just huge. But Wood probably comes in for Mills, and he's a different kind of bowler, which means that he had to finish his overs by the 15th because they don't really like him as a death bowler. So that meant that Jordan was kind of on his own as a death specialist, as that's not really Woakes' job either. And Jordan had a terrible over. He's had far worse in his career. No one can bowl as much at the death as he does. He's bowled the 2nd most balls in the world in the last 5 years without getting hit a few times. But this wasn't just a hitter lining you up. He missed his length almost every ball, and he missed his line both sides of the wicket for wides. And he might still have got away with this if Bairstow's knee hadn't hit the rope or if Livingstone had gone for the second chance. But Jordan was all over the shot. Maybe the Jew played a part, but to miss on line and length that much for someone as experienced as him, who is specifically doing his job, that's bad. And then to run into Jimmy Neesham. If you're a test specialist batter, you just don't bat that much. Entire leagues can go by without you facing 50 balls. It means that even the best players on earth don't face that many. Everyone thinks of Neesham as a death hitter, but in the last 5 years, he's only made 495 runs in the last 4 overs of matches. He just doesn't get that many chances. Of course, 26 of those runs came tonight. Now, clearly the Chris Jordan over and some of England's fielding certainly helped with this. But Neesham is in the team to hit sixes, and on a day when it looked like no one else could, he did. He took a very probable loss and turned it into a very probable win within 6 balls. To do that on this pitch, in this game, from the start of your innings, I don't know what to say. And when New Zealand did so well in the 2019 World Cup, thought that was really interesting to me, as other teams had more noticeable strengths and better form coming in, and the ability to do things that New Zealand just can't do. And in a way, I feel the exact same now. Had England got to 180, which with Neesham bowling the last over to Livingstone was a very real possibility, I wondered if New Zealand could even get to that total. Turns out they probably would have, but it also now feels like no matter what England would have got to, New Zealand would have got to it. I mean, it's a remarkable team. The fact that they felt they could just make an opener on a whim to start this tournament when they had other players there. I'm starting to just wonder if this is just a good tournament team. And we know that World Cups are generally won by teams who have better bowling attacks, and New Zealand have certainly have a very strong bowling attack of recent times. To have Neesham as your 6th option, that's better than some teams have for their 5th option. And their frontliners take wickets and they keep you under pressure. And their batting is just high IQ, which means that their bowlers don't let you get too many, and their batters will always try and work out how to get just a few more. They've now made the last 3 ICC finals. I don't know how to fully explain it. They've done a lot of great things, but essentially, New Zealand seems to keep finding a way.